my question is very simple. How do you make something badass?
Welcome to Bonfire Conversations. I'm Hamid Rezonikovran. My guest today is the legendary game director Hugo Martin, the creative force behind Doom 2016, Doom Eternal, and Doom: The Dark Ages. As the mind guiding the modern era of Doom, he has shaped 3 widely distinct entries that expanded the Slayer's mythology, reinvented first-person combat, and pushed the series into territories as the franchise had never explored before. This conversation is a study in creativity as we trace the roots of his imagination from the childhood spark that pulled him towards game to the professional milestone that shaped his creative identity. We explore how he approaches design, how he tests and transforms abstract ideas into something players can feel in their bones, and the challenges of inheriting a legacy as Doom celebrates its 32nd anniversary. We also get into philosophy behind crafting something that feels truly badass. Before we begin, please consider subscribing to Bonfire Conversations to hear more episodes with the most influential voices in pop culture. Bonfire Conversations is available on YouTube and all the major podcast platforms. Thank you for listening. This is my conversation with Hugo Martin.
If you look up the word badass in the Oxford Dictionary, it reads a tough, uncompromised, or intimidating person. So that is pretty much the sum of the feelings you created in 3 Doom games you've worked on. So
right.
One of the most influential and well-known entries in pop culture. So working on such major franchises and nailing it all 3 times made me curious about your approach to creativity. And I really wanted to understand how your mind works. So to get there, let's go back. So tell me about your childhood. Where did you grow up and what was your environment like? And how did video games enter your life?
Well, I'm 49, so I was born in 76. So the elementary school years were in the 80s. The high school years and college was in the 90s. And then I kind of was like an adult, or at least started to do some adulting in the 2000s. But so the 80s were a really great time for intellectual properties. We didn't have, this is going to sound so old, we didn't have the internet back then, but there wasn't as much to choose from. So our properties, IP intellectual properties were kind of, we had a limited amount of choices, which was really kind of cool because that means that they were just a huge part of our lives. So an example would be that G.I. Joe was the cartoon. And after the cartoon, I'd play with the toys because it was also a toy line. And then I had the bed sheets, and then there was the made for TV movies. G.I. Joe never quite made it to the big screen. Same thing with Star Wars. It was like the movies, the Christmas specials, the toys, the pajamas. Burger King would do deals and all the fast food places with them. And you'd go out of your way to get the glasses that were embroidered with Star Wars stuff on them. So it was just between that, Transformers, Star Wars, He-Man, Conan, the Arnold Schwarzenegger film, just like a handful of IPs that dominated, anybody my age, our childhood. And I think that's why the collectible market that you see that Mondo has been pursuing lately with premium statues, basically high-end toys of He-Man figures and Star Wars and stuff, is doing pretty well because there's a lot of people like me that just basically cared so deeply about that stuff. And I still want to own them, so they're serving a market there. So I think coming out of that generation, that I'm Gen X, we always make a big joke about it in my stream, the Gen X energy, which there's not too much of it. It's just, old and tired. But I think we're all from that, pop culture generation that I think Steven Spielberg and Ready Player One, the novel, kind of tapped into with their movie. I like the movie. It's because it's got all the stuff in it that means a ton to me. I don't know if it means a ton to my kids and stuff, but it's just it was a great period to grow up, and so I never really I never lost an interest in those things like many people my age. So as I got older, and certainly Doom was a part of that, but that was more in the 90s when I was in college. I came out in 93. I was was a freshman in college in '94. So then throughout that period, I should say video games was a huge part of everyone's childhood. Again, from the first Coleco, when it like first started, Coleco, Pong, super, super basic, 2-bit graphics, whatever bits they were at then. And then getting the first Atari, and that just being like a huge deal to, then after that, for me, it was Commodore 64. I was never big with PC. I wouldn't consider myself a technical person, and I just don't like, I didn't like messing around with the computer. I was always a console kid. And so, moving into the Commodore 64 was great because it was basically like a console computer. I remember playing track and field on that. Who Dares Wins, Rambo. Again, Rambo, all the great IPs always made their way onto, video games. And so Rambo being another hugely impactful franchise on my childhood. And then into Nintendo. Nintendo really kind of changed things for sure, obviously. And then onto Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64 and all the way up to where we're at now. I got a big old giant PC. Well, now because I'm in game dev, I've got everything. So I got a PlayStation, I got an Xbox, I got a PC, I got a Switch. I've yet to get the ROG Ally, but I'm going to be getting that next. So yeah, I think coming from the generation where IPs were just everywhere, and then during the birth of video games, it was a great time to be a kid.
Yeah. So how did you tell me about your career? How did you get into making games? And what was your big break? Were you aiming when you began this journey?
No, I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I wanted it to, it's this basic. I just wanted it to be on a TV screen. I was I just grew up in front of the TV.
Yeah.
It's just nonstop with the television and the movies and the games, much to my parents' dismay. So I didn't know. I was always a creative kid and super into art as a child. Felt very fortunate. My mom, she's an immigrant from Colombia, and my dad was from Argentina, and she just took a real special interest in our education, and in particular my art education. She really zeroed in on me as a kid, so she got me private classes at a super early age with a retired pulp illustrator named Rafael De Soto. I was getting pretty advanced art training at the age of 11. I think it started in the 5th grade, and just spending 4 years with him doing that stuff was transformative. I think I spent 3 years with him, but and then that just set me on the path creatively. I was painting and drawing and doing oil portraits all through grade school into high school and stuff, and pastels, watercolors, all this stuff. So kind of being trained by him to be an illustrator. But the illustration market, like so many markets, it just changed by the time I went to school. I don't want to say it was gone, but I mean, the illustration market, and obviously the golden age, Rockwell into the 70s, Bob Peak movie poster, period, to the 80s, the great Atari covers, Bertie Fuchs. So by the time I got in school, it was really changing just quite a bit. I don't want to say it didn't exist anymore, but it was definitely changing. So, and I knew I just wanted to do something with art and media, so how do I merge those two things? Thought about being a film director, but didn't really go to the right school for it. I told my mom that, but I just got a scholarship to go to Pratt, and went there, Pratt Institute in Brooklyn. And so, the big moment was when ILM came to Pratt. I was floundering in school. I had a scholarship, but I didn't really know what the hell I wanted to do. And I was having way too much fun in Brooklyn. It was really a good time. and I was just kind of lost, not really interested. I was pursuing graphic design, which I respect, but do not feel like I'm good at doing. And, was really struggling with that. And the concept department came to Pratt, and I'd never even heard of what that was before. This was during the time of the special edition re-releases of the original trilogy, where they were preparing to make the prequels, and episode 1 was early in development, but they were using, almost like a test run. They were re-releasing the original trilogy and updating it with new scenes and new CG. And they were recruiting for Star Wars. And so my mind was blown. I had no idea that was actually a profession, concept art. And then that was it. I was completely obsessed. Pratt did not have a program for conceptual art at the time. So I kind of created my own. I spoke with all my professors that I would just kind of do my own program based on what I thought I needed. At the time, there was no real formal training to pursue concept art or entertainment design in any way. And really a job as a concept artist kind of didn't exist. There was like 10 people who did it, in Hollywood, like Ralph McQuarrie and stuff. And they agreed. And then I just feel like I didn't get enough education. So I kept, I'm a big Tony Robbins fan, and I would listen to his videos, because when I was in Pratt, I wasn't doing well. So I was just trying to figure out how to get, my life on track, professionally speaking. And he'd always talked about role modeling, just find the people who do the things you want to do and then emulate them. And so I kept hearing this, most of my heroes came from industrial design, people who were working in the film doing what I thought I wanted to do. And a lot of them went to art center, and most of them came from car design. So I really zeroed in on the trans department, getting a transportation design degree at art center. And so after Pratt, I made that decision. Prior to graduating Pratt, I had submitted to art center, found out that I would not be eligible for financial aid because it's a second bachelor's. Which I wouldn't have been able to go there. And I really just wanted to go back for another undergraduate degree. I'd already done my 5-6 years at Pratt, again, 6 years because I was having such a good time. But I got serious at the end after ILM came. And so I ended up walking in my graduation, but actually not intentionally not submitting my final paper for like a liberal arts class and being two credits shy of my bachelor's degree at Pratt, just so I could, I still walked in my graduation because as far as I was concerned, I earned that stuff. And then just by doing that, I was able to get access to financial aid to go to Art Center, which was totally legal. Like, although the Bursar's financial aid office, they were a little bit like, I'm not sure, is this all? And it totally worked. So I freed up a bunch of money and was able to, I worked for 2 years in New York and trying to get work as a concept artist. Before I went to Art Center, I wanted to do it for a little while, just so when I went to Art Center, I could figure out what it is I needed to focus on once I went there. That was really, really good. I don't know why I knew to do that, but I'm glad I did, because I worked at Wizards of the Coast in their IP department. I worked at NTV Animation, which was super fun. And then I did some odds and ends here and there. But I mean, I did like a kitty litter commercial. I just did anything I could. But Wizards of the Coast was like a real job. That was like serious. Hey, you're a concept artist. You're working in our IP department. They offered me a job there, which was incredible. But I had my sights set on Art Center, and I was just basically spending those 2 years gaining experience, just saving money. And I eventually made it out to Art Center. With no scholarship, by the way, which was shocking, to me, because I'd already gone through a full 4-year program at Pratt Institute, which is a private art school. It's highly respected. I actually got rejected the first time I went to Art Center. And which, again, they were like, well, your cars are not very good. I'm like, yeah, that's why I want to go to school there. But I reapplied and got in. And every year that I was there, I submitted for a scholarship. Pestered them and got better, and eventually got a full scholarship. They were not full, like enough to pay for my tuition to be able to continue my education at Art Center. Because if anybody who's gone there, that it's the price of med school. It's ridiculous. So it's worth every penny. I'm a big supporter of Art Center's program. It changed my life, and so I did 3.5 years there. And then graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Trans, and then re-entered the workforce as a concept artist, but this time with real training. The first time I entered into the entertainment industry after Pratt, I had imposter syndrome. I didn't know what I was doing. Like, my entire program at Pratt was just made up by me. Like, I went to I went to any art school in New York that I felt could give me the training necessary to help me achieve my goals as a concept artist while at Pratt. I went to School of Visual Arts continuing education program. There I found Mike Matisse, who was who was from Disney or ILM. I just wanted to have them become my mentor. Mike was from Disney feature animation. He had mastered this high focus drawing method that was kind of created by this other teacher whose name I can't remember, but he was a teacher at School of Visual Arts. Mike Matisse kind of took that high focus drawing method and combined it with the things he learned at Disney and turned it into what he called Force, which is a great series of books out now. And I just studied really closely with him and became a much better draftsman. And then I was kind of sitting in on industrial design classes at Pratt because they had an ID program there, but it's not really, it's good. It's solid. The trans program is not really what they're known for. So all of that gave me the skills to get a job at Wizards of the Coast, but I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I didn't understand the design process at all. My design process was just made up. And so the best thing you learn at Art Center is just how to make things to take something from zero to finish. That's it. And, you know, they say if you could draw the figure, you could draw anything. And they say if you could design a vehicle, you could design anything. I think both of those things are really true. So the process that I learned at Art Center's ID program in trans taught me how to make, in a weird way, video games. It taught me how to kind of do everything that I wanted to pursue afterwards, you know, and I still rely on it to this day. I always go back to these core fundamentals that I learned there whenever I get stuck. So, graduated, and my first job was at Naughty Dog. And it was euphoric. I felt like a working professional. I felt like I'm not basically stealing these people's money. I didn't feel like I was waiting for somebody to tap me on the shoulder and realize, like, hey, you're fired. We don't know what you're doing. And we figured that out. I just came in every day, knew what I was doing, and it felt so good. But like anything, immediately just started thinking about expanding my skill set and doing more stuff, which led me to story. Like, I'd always been just a huge cinephile, and, you know, the entertainment design is one part story, one part visual design, one part business. You know, it's these three things that come together to make great intellectual properties like Star Wars. It's not just the story. It's a huge part of Star Wars is the visual design. It's, of course, the hero's journey story stuff. And then it's also like how viable it is as like a business, you know, which turns out Star Wars is an incredible business. So I'd learned the business and the visual design part when I was at Art Center and Pratt and in my experience, and I had a passion for story just growing up, being obsessed with movies. You know, you watch enough movies, you start to understand it. But I started formally studying it after Pratt when I got to, after Art Center, after Naughty Dog, I went to Blur. They had a short film contest every year. I won it. And I just became super focused on trying to understand how to tell stories. And then I was lastly in my job as a concept artist coming out of Art Center. I was often working on people's pitches as a freelance artist. And so I would be in the room and working with writers and directors, helping them flesh out their pitches. And I was absorbing like a ton of information while that was going on. So, that all kind of came together to eventually got me an opportunity with Guillermo del Toro and Pacific Rim, and then a few more really cool experiences. And then that eventually I took a job at id, which was a company that I always wanted to work at, on Doom, which is an IP that I was really passionate about. And it honestly all came together. To any of the young people out there, I would say, you know, luck is really when opportunity meets preparation. Nobody's really lucky. It's more about you taking advantage of the opportunities that you may not even realize are around you. I had no idea when I took the job at id as a freelancer that it would turn into 12 years of, you know, now I'm the studio co-director and game director and stuff. I just was prepared, really passionate about the job, had learned enough lessons that these opportunities were presented to me, and I was able to make the most of them. So
wow.
that was a long journey, but that led me to where I am now. And along the way, just meeting tons of really cool people and having a really good time.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's amazing. Now, let's focus on the creative side of your work. How do you think your mind operates creatively? What fuels it? How do you come up with design ideas? And how do you decide on the overall feeling of a game?
Research is everything. Like, what makes, again, like, if you understand, it's really about entertainment design. It's you, and phase one, the first thing they taught us at Art Center was just research. So you go to this incredibly prestigious art school and you think you're going to draw till your hands bleed, and you will. But the first assignment we got in product design one was to do a teapot, which I was like, who gives, a crap about teapots? That's not what I came here for. I came here to draw Ferraris. And it was an incredibly good assignment. It taught us so much. And we didn't even start drawing teapots. The first 3 weeks was just researching teapots, because they knew that this class of 20-somethings kids, wouldn't know anything about tea, which none of us did. But it turns out that there's this whole world of kitchenware and tea drinkers out there that's fascinating. And they showed us where to go, where to shop for teapots. We have to go there and just do research sketches of all the items in these stores, and then go and have tea and partake in the ritual. And you learned like so much about it. And then after a month's worth of research, 2-3 weeks, then you start designing a teapot. And then on top of that, we had to pick an artist that we wanted to base the teapot on, like a deceased artist, someone famous. Mine was Renee McIntosh, who I knew nothing about. And so I came out of the month plus of this research just like transformed. I was like, holy cow, this is amazing. And I apply that lesson to everything I do. So, it's very subjective when you're designing a game or trying to come up with an idea. It's art is subjective. What's fun is subjective. It's 2 + 2 = fun. And so, it's all about increasing your chances of success, because there is no way of guaranteeing it. So the way you increase your chances is through doing an exhaustive amount of research. So I will play, read, watch everything I possibly can, nearly 24/7, in preparation for whatever it is we're going to do next. So I would say I learned that at Art Center. Especially, I always tell the people I work with about that teapot story. It probably bores the shit out of them, but it is something that means a lot to me. I learned a really valuable lesson. And the thing you learn there most of all is it doesn't matter what you know going into a product. That's what pre-production is about. It's about doing the research. So you're really going to limit yourself out there if you're like, well, I don't know anything about the military, so I can't make a military game. Dude, go start studying. Go do some research and make yourself an expert on that subject.
Yeah, and it also keeps you updated, because I was thinking about your work on these 3 Dooms, and when you look at the whole package, everything is there. The graphic is top bar. It's the music is insane. The sound is perfect. The art is innovative. And how do you keep yourself updated regarding from now on, the graphics are this advanced, or the sound must be this crisp?
Well, I don't do anything with the graphics. So,
but as a director, so you have to sign it off, right?
I do, but there's we work with very talented people. Like, I appreciate the praise, but it's a very much a collaborative effort. Again, I'm going to bring it back to Art Center. The one of their great assignments was we had to make a product in a team of 3, which was such a good assignment. It taught us the value that commercial art is art made for others with others. Yeah. Inevitably when you work on a team, it's got to be the best idea wins, and it might not be your idea. You've really got to be selfless, and focused on the product and focused on the consumer. So id is, and I take those lessons to id with me every day. And I always tell the team that commercial art is art made with others, for others. And fine art is art made for yourself, by yourself. We want to be good commercial artists.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the graphics and all the things you talked about, it just begins with, yes, my job is to draw an X on the map. How we get there as a team. We zig and we zag our way there, but what you don't want to be doing is moving the X too much.
Yeah.
Zigs and zags, we're going to take a winding road getting to that X. If you move that X dramatically too much, that means you're not really doing your job as a director. So I've got to do a ton of research prior to putting that X down. And then you're just continually speaking with the team about what we can and can't do, what capitalizes on our strengths, as a studio, id tech, the people we have. And then we have incredibly talented people, from musicians to artists to programmers, who will, just make everything that you just called out look and feel amazing. I think I'm just focused on making sure that it's a cohesive experience, that the art, the design, and the technology are all serving, headed towards working to achieve the same goal.
Yeah.
And that that there's consistency, that the sound of the shield feels like it fits in well with the music, and that the environment and the look of the world all kind of feels cohesive, that the design elements of the game, whether it's the currencies or the progression or the guns or the, whatever it is that's in the game, that it all feels like it fits, because you can't just do like a grab bag of elements, because, what works great in one game might not work great in another.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a huge credit to the team that those things feel, as good as they do.
Awesome. So I opened this conversation with the meaning of the word badass, because that feeling is so strongly implemented in these three games, and that it becomes visceral when you play them. Everyone has a favorite Doom, but for me, surprisingly, it's Doom: The Dark Ages.
That's awesome.
Surprisingly, because before playing it, I wasn't sure about the cutscenes, the story, and mechanics like dragon riding. But by the time I finished the game, those became my favorite elements in that game. And it felt like Doom had evolved into something else. Like it finally achieved that incredible sense of, feeling like a superhuman fighting demons. Scenes like the Slayer dying, going to hell, fighting his way out, while people in the living world resurrect him with magic, controlling giant mechs and breaking out of hell with a ship. I remember showing this to my girlfriend and asking, do you feel it? Do you feel the badassery on this? Or is it just me? Riding the dragon, witnessing the vastness of the war while it's such a smart way to reveal the scale of the word. It simply sells the word. So I think my question is very simple. How do you make something badass?
Oh, well, you start by working with really badass people, like I said. And you get them all together in a room. That's critical, because again, it's a collaborative process for sure. I think you have to be really consistent with it. And I'm not saying we're do it right all the time. As soon as we step out of line with the character or do something that they feel like betrays that badass feeling of the character, the audience is very quick to point it out. So you have to protect it. It's a very precious feeling. It takes a very long time to build up that aura around the Slayer. And it takes very little to ruin it, So yeah. I think we have to be really careful with that. I think, how do we make him badass? Well, he's very much based on like the Terminator and Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. He is the killer in a slasher movie, and the demons are the camp counselors. That's kind of what I always think, is that it's a movie about Jason, and the demons are the camp counselors. And so those characters have a certain mystique about them, and they're really intriguing. because you're always wondering what's going on behind the mask. Like, do they have feelings? Do they care? And that's just something we play with quite a bit with the Slayer. You also get a real sense of who he is based on the way people act when they're around him, which is a great touchstone for that would be when Arnold enters the bar in Terminator 2 and he's naked. He's huge. He's imposing and everybody's kind of looking at him. And when you could see the world through the Terminator's eyes in that scene, you get a sense of the power that he wields. And he's not even doing anything. He's just, I mean, granted, he's naked and completely buffed, but he's just moving through the world and everybody's just completely, in awe of him. Sorry, I got a call. Okay. Are we back?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that makes the player feel really powerful. Like one of the great things about video games is they call it immersive. Like I'm going to put you, in the role of that character. You will be that character and you will feel what it's like to enter a room and everybody backs away. And that's something that we play around with quite a bit. And we work really hard at it. Like most of the scenes, that's the number one priority. I always say to make the player feel like a tiger, a Bengal tiger entering the room. Like if there was a Bengal tiger without a leash that entered the room right now, they would move really slowly and casually and everybody else would be incredibly tense.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's kind of the essence of the Slayer. Like everything he does, he's very cool and casual while everybody else is very tense around him. And it's kind of based on what it would be like to be around like, an untamed tiger who just entered the room and has no leash. It could rip your leg off. It might not. And so there's just making sure that the story, the gameplay, and even the way he walks, the sound he makes when he walks, the sound he makes when he lands, all of that is trying to create that cohesive and consistent feeling for the player of, as you said, just feeling like a badass. So you gotta have it on a board in the room, and you've got to constantly be thinking about it. With every decision that you make has to work in service of making the player feel that way. And I'm glad that you're saying that because that's really the point of the whole game.
Yeah. And there's a fine line between making something badass and making it cheesy. Like, have you got there like during the production, like, oh, nah, it's just cheesy. People are going to laugh at this.
Oh, inside, I don't know that we get it right every time. We're trying our best, but yeah, absolutely. There are ways you could take it too far and things like that. So, the delivery of a line, like, the way something's animated, like we really try to ride that line, when you get to the third entry of anything, everything is fresh and new in the first one. Doom 2016, we didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of intrigue, by the third entry of really anything like a movie or a game, you already know a lot about the character. So by being able to take him and make it a prequel, like it just gives us a chance to take people to a new place and hopefully have, create as much intrigue as the first entry had, which is difficult again, because people know so much about him at this point.
It's awesome. All right. So in a few days, Doom turns 32 years old.
Yes.
Looking back at the legacy of this franchise, how do you feel and what do you think are its most significant influences on the history of video games?
Well, the original Doom, the first part of your question is how do I feel about what?
Yeah. How do you feel about Doom turning 32 years old and you are like captaining the ship?
It feels amazing. Well, I do with Marty Stratton. So to be clear, he is also the captain, or really I would say the captain, because he hired me and still is very much in charge of the franchise and the studio. And it's awesome working with Marty every day.
Yeah.
How do I feel about being a part of it? It feels awesome. I feel a tremendous amount of responsibility. I tell the team all the time that this game and this franchise means so much to so many people. I get letters all the time from super fans, longtime fans, young fans, new fans, disabled fans who are struggling with mental health issues. And they found Doom and they found the community and they feel like it's really helped them through a challenging period in their life. That means a lot to me to receive that. I share that stuff with the fans and I should share that stuff with the team. And I love it. I mean, I just want to make sure that we're doing it justice, at every turn. And it's important that we care as much about the franchise as the fans do. And it's what motivates us to put in as much work as we do to try to make it as good as we possibly can. Every punch, every kick, every weapon animation, really pour over that stuff because we know it means so much to people. I think it's good, but it's a lot of pressure, and that's a good thing. I think you want to work on things that matter creatively, but I would consider the original Doom to be one of the greatest games of all time.
Yeah.
And one of the most important franchises, not just in video games, but in pop culture, period. So to make a sequel or sequels to that game, to add to that property, is an honor, a huge amount of responsibility. And something that I and everyone at it takes super seriously.
Yeah, that is awesome. All right, Hugo. I have a segment in the podcast called Penny for Your Thoughts, where I ask some deep and sometimes silly questions to get to know my guest better. So are you ready for it?
Sure.
All right, next one. If you had to design an enemy inspired by your worst habit, what would it look like and how fast would it kill us?
It'd be my worst habit. It'd be the sugar monster that consumes an endless amount of sweets. 'Cause I love sugar, and it's going to give everybody diabetes and make them super chubby, and they're going to have heart disease. So. My monster will give everyone high blood pressure very quickly.
Okay. What's a creative instinct you trust even when you can't justify it?
Pulling an emotional response out of the consumer. Like, I think as an audience, I always say consumer, people sometimes take that the wrong way. That's just how I was taught at school. Like I actually have an enormous respect for that word. The consumer is the boss, they are who we work for. And they're everything. So, but for the fans, I would say that when all else fails, and at the very least, you just have to make them feel something. Whenever there's something we've done that hasn't landed for the audience, it's because they didn't feel anything, and then they get the feeling of, I hate this. So they do end up feeling something, but it's because if while watching it, playing it, reading it, unlocking it, if it's a puzzle, if they felt nothing, then they will ultimately feel frustrated. So, those feelings could be, you hope that it's drama, that it gets them leaning forward and their palms are sweaty and they're hyper-focused, as I call it, the brink of death. That's usually where games are most engaging, but it could be sorrow, sadness, laughter. When he breaks the filters in Doom 2016, everybody laughed. That's a good, it's just, you gotta pull something out of them. So, that goes for movies, that goes for books, it goes for games. I think a great board game, makes me feel something when I'm playing it with people. So when all else fails, we have to make them feel something. Ideally, it's the emotion that we were going after. But that's it. I'm searching for what is the emotional response we hope to pull out of the fans when we make this puzzle or complete this encounter. And is it what we were after? And is it strong enough?
Yeah. And it's such a difficult task because first time you announced Doom the Dark Ages, you came up with this tagline of stand and fight. And that's not something easy. Like, it's not like a cheesy, like promotional thing. Like, these cliche taglines like defy the destiny, like fear the gods, something like that. But this is an emotion. And it's most importantly, it's about a feeling that you will experience during playing the game. Like really, you're standing and like, unlike the Eternal. And it is such a difficult thing to do. And how do you test that? How do you? I mean, getting into a mechanic like stand and fight is something, and making sure, okay, we got there, but is it fun? And how do you test that? How do you test something that is not tangible? You know, like it's a feeling.
Well, that's an emotional state. It's an X on the map. It's a goal. So, when we stand and fight, think about it. When we stand and fight in politics, it means that we're like, we're defiant, we're holding our ground. We feel strong. We have a firm belief in something. Stand and fight in the schoolyard against the bully. Like, I think stand and fight is a posture that makes people feel strong. I think it's aspirational. It's something that we all feel good about doing in our lives. I can't think of many times in our lives where we stood and fought for something where it was, a bad thing. It might have been a mistake at the time, but it's usually when we feel most alert, most inspired. So it is an emotional state. And if you could connect your slogan, your logline, your tagline with an emotional state, and it's the one that you hope that the audience feels when they play your game or watch a movie, then that's really good. So that was the theme of the game, was stand and fight, to be able to stand up to the biggest demons that we've ever created and smash them in the face.
Wow. And I think that's one of the reasons that I feel this one, The Dark Ages, feels more, as I said, badass. Because like, he's like too strong and hinged, like not moving. That is great. Yeah. Wow.
Listen, not balanced correctly, you might stand and fight for too long. If you haven't upgraded your kit, you might stand and fight and feel weak. So like there's a bunch of things. But if the game clicks for you, it's like you've progressed your character enough, you've, understood and memorized some of the patterns, you've clicked with the game. And you're going to feel good, doing it. That's the best. That's the fun zone. Stand and fight is the fun zone that we push the player into. We're betting that if they play that way, they'll have a good time.
All right. Okay. Next one. What's one idea you used to think was brilliant that you've completely abandoned now?
That you needed, just off the top of my head, I didn't understand like at Blur, what is like, creating something that's original, but that is also familiar to the audience. Like, I didn't know how to execute on that in a way that it didn't feel, overly derivative or like just on the nose cliche. But at the same time, everything original has a familiar quality to it. That's the sweet spot. It's like something, it's familiar, but fresh, it's a cliche with a twist. I didn't understand that. Like, everybody loves a cliche with a twist. The Matrix is basically James Cameron's Terminator story. Like, oh, there's an apocalypse, AI takes over and robots kill us. But it's just done in a completely different way with, this whole, the one Neo, twist to it. So it's totally original. But the storyline is very similar. And it's familiar to us at this point. Hey, the plot is AI takes over the world and robots kill us all. And that's not the most original idea, but it's all in the execution. So, and it's what new things you bring to that story. So, yeah, I think early on I had IPs that I was working on for myself. This is at Blur, that I look back now and I just laugh because they just weren't really connecting. They were either so trying so hard to be so unique that nobody understood them. Like, you just looked at it and you're like, I don't know what the hell that is, and then they required like an explanation, and, oh, okay, well, that's cool. But I don't really get that when I look at it, or, so I think that it's really figuring out, just understanding that, which I didn't really understand when I put too much into things being hyper original to the point that nobody understood them, and that's what's critical for entertainment design and commercial art, is that, it's inviting to the audience, that they don't need a degree in industrial design to understand why this thing they're looking at or trying to play is cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that was the big lesson.
That's great advice. Like, okay, next one. If the Doomslayer had a day off, what painfully normal thing would he be shockingly good at?
Well, according to Doom, I just think he's a big nerd, you know? I think quietly, yeah, I just always think of him as like, because he collects toys and stuff. So I think you'd probably see the Doom guy, the Doomslayer at a comic book convention. You know, that might be where you see him, like walking around, you know, not talking to anyone, towering above everybody. Like, yeah, I think he's probably really good, you know, at arc raiders, and he probably he wouldn't PvP as much as you think he would. I think he would be friendly, you know, yes, in Speranza.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would be one of those guys that doesn't shoot first. But if you did shoot at him, you would get wrecked.
Yeah. Right. What's an idea you resisted for too long before finally accepting it?
No, every good book I've ever read. Every good book that I've ever read took me years to finally pull it off my shelf and do more, but then just look at the pictures. Like, I just have a habit of buying really important books, like Andrew Loomis's books on illustration, Joseph Campbell's book on the hero's journey. Just every good book I've read on business, on leadership, on art, story, you know, design. It takes me like 2 years to just get to the point. I try to absorb it just by looking at it because I'm lazy. and then eventually I actually read it. And then when I do read it, I'm just like, why the hell didn't I read this, you know, freaking 5 years ago when I bought the thing?
Yeah, I know the feeling.
And I have a massive library of books, and I'm still working my way through books that I've been staring at for years.
Do you read them, or do you listen to audiobooks as well?
No, I'm superstitious about audiobooks. Like, I feel like I have to read them.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if I don't read it, there's two things. I like the idea that when I read something, it goes on my shelf, and it's kind of like, hey, look, like, here's my bookshelf. I've read all those things, you know? It's just, I'm proud of, you know, yeah, that's just a satisfying feeling. And then I also feel like if I'm listening to it, it's not the same thing. I do feel that, you know, reading is important because it helps with the muscle in your brain that visualizes things. So like, as you're reading a William Gibson sci-fi novel or something, like, you're imagining what these worlds look like. And that is the very muscle that you're going to use when you're coming up with ideas. So I do feel like it's a workout for my brain if I actually read it and don't listen to it. Now, that's just me, and probably completely wrong, because I'm surrounded by super smart people who are far more articulate and smarter than I am, who focus primarily, almost exclusively on, you know, audiobooks. So I'm not saying that's the case for everybody. It's just like a superstition that I have.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Who would be your dream director to make a Doom film?
I'd have to say Guillermo to start, because I worked with him and he's just an awesome person.
Yeah.
So Guillermo, honestly, I forget what his name is. I should know this, but the guy who directed the first Blade, you know, because I think that Blade would be a great analog, a great touchstone for a Doom movie. So, and I love Blade. I've seen it so many times. So probably Guillermo, and I should know who directed that movie, Blade.
Would be a cool Doom film, like a musical. And there's no dialogue in it from beginning till the end. It's a fucking musical and action. Wouldn't that be crazy?
That'd be awesome.
An experimental movie. Yeah.
I think it'd have to be experimental, because I wouldn't want it to be, you know, overly cliche. I think the concept of like science gone wrong and they were tampering with things they shouldn't have, and they opened the portal to hell. Like at this point, people have seen that before. So I think, being able to tell, like, that's what was so great about Blade. Like, or John Wick was the professionals, like a hero in motion, and then we learn about them along the way. We still have to care about the character, but, and I think that's important in all of those films. They get me to care about them right away, but they have a pace to them. They get us right, because I think a slow reveal of the demons and stuff is, everybody knows it's about demons. I think it's what we do with demons that counts. And that's what I like about Blade so much. It was like not a surprise that it was about vampires. It was more a surprise about the vampire world that they created for us. Yeah.
So speaking of movies, what are your top 5 films of all time?
Oh man. It'd have to be The Matrix. I just think that that's like a masterpiece of the film. Michael Clayton, I watched that movie, I don't know, like 10 times a year. Wow. I'm just so obsessed with that movie. I love it so much. The writing, Tony Gilroy is like a hero of mine. And The Social Network, again, for the direction and the writing. Aaron Sorkin, in my opinion, is just super talent. Obviously, goes without saying, he's like a genius. I like Moneyball a lot. Again, another Aaron Sorkin film, just because it's amazing. I've seen that so many times. I watched Die Hard. It's just, I really just, especially as I get older, I just can't believe, like, it's such an incredible film. It's from start to finish. It's just so tight. John McTiernan, I think, was like a genius. I mean, think about it. He did Die Hard. He did Predator. That's one hell of a run there. Yeah. He did The Hunt for Red October. He just did like a lot of really good films in a row. Then I can't believe there's no Spielberg in there. That's stupid. I mean, Jaws, of course, right? It's like the best movie ever.
Yeah.
But yet have to say Pulp Fiction too, just because, like, I mean, when that came out, I was in college. That changed everything. Like Doom came out, changed video games. Yeah. Pulp Fiction came out, changed movies. And all this was happening while I'm hanging out with my friends at Pratt. So, like, those just off the top of my head. I feel bad. I'm sure I'm missing really important stuff, but those are some pretty good movies. Yeah. I think, honestly, it was just a Rocky movie, but you'd have to put Rocky 1 in there, although I think Rocky 3 is my favorite. But yeah, because they're just great movies. They make you feel, all of these movies make you feel something. Yeah. So I think that's always what I'm looking for, is something that makes me feel that cathartic release that all great films make you feel. That moment where you just, you just let out this emotion. Yeah. Because it's been building up through the 3 acts, and that just feels great. People love to feel things, and I'm no different. I just love a great song that moves you, a great movie that makes you feel something, a great video game that makes you feel something. I think that's why people like From Software games so much, why they like Arc Raiders right now so much, just really, you're feeling something so intense when you experience these pieces of entertainment. It feels awesome.
It was interesting about your favorite films, some of them, as you were mentioning them, like Aaron Sorkin, like Michael Clayton. As like, these are very like dialogue-based movies, yet your games are not very much dialogue-heavy games. Isn't that interesting?
So the original script that I wrote for 2016, if I showed you what it looked like, it was massive.
It's Aaron Sorkin writing Doom.
Well, it takes a shit ton of work to write something that has very little words. So in Dark Ages, he says one word. And you have to do so much work to, any in art, you always want to simplify things as much as you can. That's the rule that applies to everything. And in order to do that, you usually have to do a ton of work. Yeah. So there's usually just a pile of sketches to get to something that looks effortless and super simple. So there's a lot of writing that takes place to get to the point where you've got a game where people say so little.
Yeah. What are what are your top 5 favorite games of all time?
Just because I just heard that maybe Bloodborne 2 is going to be announced at the Game Awards. So I loved Bloodborne 1. That was my favorite From Software game. I liked Dark Souls a lot, but that one really just clicked for me because of the universal monsters, Wolfmen and they had that kind of, and then they moved it into like the H.P. Lovecraft third act, which was amazing. So I'm a huge H.P. Lovecraft fan. So probably Bloodborne's got to be up there. I got to say GoldenEye, just because that was like college, and that was like the game that I was, the best at. Like, every gamer has that period where they were like unstoppable and, whatever it is they were playing, Counter-Strike or whatever. And for me, it was GoldenEye. And then I'd have to say the original Doom, of course, like 1993's Doom. It just changed my life, completely. A game that I play, I feel like I have a cat hair on my face. It's driving me crazy. A game that I play annually, basically, at the start of every single project, I play it and I learn something from it every single time. So I learned something at the start of Dark Ages, I learned something at the start of Eternal. It's a very important piece of art that I've got a tremendous amount of respect for. What else? I don't know. I feel bad that it might be, all of my entries would feel too modern, but like Sekiro, that's really one of my favorite games. I just love that game so much. I love the purity of that game. I love how uncompromising it is. I love that I wield only one weapon the whole game, which just feels, incredible. What else? I want to try to get in any one of the Resident Evil series. I mean, when I played Resident Evil 4 years ago, I played it way after it came out, but I played like the not the remaster, not the latest version where they really remastered it, but the one where it was just like a special, like a re-release,
Yeah.
Whatever they call those, I forget. But, and it was amazing, even though it was at that point, a couple of years old, it controlled kind of funkily, but it was just so satisfying, to play. And then when I recently, about a year ago, played the remaster, the latest version, which I've been putting off for a while, and that felt just as good. Although I think I probably liked the original a little bit more. But certainly, like, I think Resident Evil 4, I mean, you could pick a lot of them, but that one was probably, among my favorites. And then honestly, most recently, I gotta say, like, I just think that the type of experiences that people are having in Arc Raiders right now is pretty amazing. Like, yeah. It's a really fantastic game. I hadn't played Rust or a lot of these games where, there's kind of this gray morality area where we could, the survival aspect. Are you my friend? Will we help each other? I just love that part of the game so much. I like the PvP. I think it's fine. I think it's really cool, but it's really about that part of the game when you roll out in solos and you're just, making allies, getting betrayed, and all the tension that creates just feels right now. You're asking me favorite game, and so that's what I'm playing quite a bit of. And big credit to that team at Embark. I think they did a tremendous job. So
yeah, is this your?
There's too many to list.
Is this your favorite game of the year? Also,
I don't know. Expedition 33 was pretty awesome. I played and completed that. I haven't played Hades 2 yet, so I don't know how good that is, but I'm sure it's pretty awesome. Didn't play Ghost of Yotei. So right now, off the top of my head, it would come down to Arc or Expedition 33. I don't know. I couldn't say. I think they're all just really great games.
Yeah. And last question: what genre of game do you think you'd be surprisingly good at making?
Geez. I'd love to make a survival game. Yeah, I think that would be really fun. That's just off the top of my head. I love Subnautica. something I played during the development of Dark Ages. And I haven't played every survival game out there, but it was a really great experience. I see a lot of those mechanics working their way into some of the best Bethesda RPGs that they're making now. And, and I think I just thought that game was really pretty incredible. So yeah, I'd love to. I don't know if I'd be good at it. Just think it would be enjoyable to make a game like that.
Yeah. All right. This is it, Hugo. Despite my age, I'm a bit young for the legacy Dooms. So, and my first Doom was Doom 3. But with your trilogy, I've become a fan. And the feeling these games carry is priceless. You understood the assignment and always delivered the best. I'm in awe of your creativity, and it was an absolute privilege talking to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Oh, hey, thank you so much. And, huge credit to the team again. I thank you for all the kind words. And I want to just say that from everyone from id Software, really appreciate your support. I certainly don't make these games myself, and we just work. We have an incredible team at id, and we really enjoy making Doom games and love hearing from the fans and seeing the way that they engage with it. And we're always looking for ways to make it better. And it's just such a fun franchise to work on. It's Doom Guy is such a great character, and no, it's been a blast. So thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you.